Welcome to Last Dawn Stories channel. In the apocalypse, I entered the summit meeting with my prophecy skill, but I was accused of fraud, and naturally, I wasn't having it. As soon as the prophecy was made, the conference secretary suddenly burst through the door and performed an electrifying girl group dance. Everyone was stunned. I defiantly looked at everyone. Who's next? Who wants to dance? At first, I didn't realize the severity of the problem. Before the apocalypse arrived, a corporate drone of the 21st century, was still working overtime in a team meeting. The bald supervisor was spouting off on the screen, pushing for next quarter's KPI, still worrying about KPIs. We might not even survive this. Who's gonna spend all that money? I was lost in thought and muttered to myself, when suddenly everyone around me stopped and stared. Oh no, did I say that out loud? The bald supervisor glared at me angrily. Linda, you're never enthusiastic about work. Do you have a problem with management and the company? Joke, I'm not working hard enough. I complete my assigned tasks on time every day. It's just that I didn't help him with overtime, so he keeps finding ways to make things difficult for me, openly and secretly, and deducts my bonuses. Mr. Bald, I'm not targeting you. I'm referring to everyone present, glancing at the clock on the wall. See, there are 10 minutes left before the zombies arrive. Let's see if the money in your hands can protect you then. Linda, are you crazy? This is a meeting. What nonsense are you spouting? The green tea colleague beside me tugged at my sleeve, putting on a fake, concerned act. In the world before I crossed over, the apocalypse had indeed arrived without warning. First came the zombies, then earthquakes and tsunamis, just when we thought the zombies had been dragged deep into the ocean by the waves. Little did we know that was only the beginning. I barely escaped with my life into the underground fortress, only to be forever separated from my parents and loved ones. These colleagues I thought would help each other in times of need only wanted to push me out as a human shield in the critical moment. Rolled my eyes and didn't bother with him. When the time comes, the truth will reveal itself. The bald supervisor was furious, pointing at my forehead and yelling, "Good-for-nothing loser," to prove me wrong. He actually ran downstairs alone and shouted at the sky, "Where are the zombies you mentioned? Where are they? TSK, I've seen people courting death before, but never someone so eager to rush toward it." By this time, the zombies should have already taken over the northern part of the city and were heading toward the south. As soon as he finished speaking, a blue-skinned zombie with a crooked nose and protruding mouth emerged from the side. Biting into his carotid artery, blood sprayed out. Spurting as high as 3 feet, colleagues gathered by the window witnessed the scene, each one terrified to the core. The office drama queen was the first to start performing, whimpering and crying beside them. "It's all your fault. If you hadn't mentioned the zombies, he wouldn't have died." It suddenly dawned on me that green tea was Mr. Bald's mistress. No wonder, because of her words, everyone turned to look at me. I spread my hands in an innocent gesture. It's not like my mouth is magic. Whatever I say comes true. If that's really the case, then I'll be the first to wish you go bald. As soon as I finished speaking, a roar came from outside. It turned out the zombies had finished devouring Mr. Bald and were now starving and going crazy without food. Fortunately, their combat ability was weak, and they hadn't managed to break into the building yet. The piercing screams behind, accompanied by repeated shouts of "fuck," made everyone turn around, only to discover that the green tea girl was actually losing clumps of hair. Slowly, the pale white scalp on the top of her head became visible. Holy shit, did my words really manifest like this? The green tea girl usually relied on her cutesy, high-pitched voice to form cliques in the office and had decent popularity. Who would have thought that in the blink of an eye, she'd turn into such a terrifying sight? Instantly, everyone scrambled to avoid her. She was at a loss, took off her clothes to cover her head, reached out to her girlfriends but no one was willing to lend a hand, and then she started throwing a tantrum again. I massaged my forehead. "Save your energy, you won't be able to run when the earthquake comes." Everyone looked at me in shock. Earthquake? With Mr. Bald's precedent, they couldn't help but take my words seriously. I didn't think much of it. After all, I was just recounting events according to the previous timeline. Seeing my indifferent expression, they all scattered in a flurry, grabbing all the temporary water supplies in the break room. After all, when disaster strikes, survival comes first. Someone suddenly shouted, "Earthquake's coming, run." Outside, chaos reigned. Some, thinking themselves lucky, believed the shaking hadn't started yet and tried to take the elevator down, only to be trapped inside when the earthquake struck, with no way to call for help. Others rushed down the stairs to the first floor and dashed out recklessly, only to become food for the zombies. Watching through the glass window, I shook my head. The earthquake arrived as expected, but the magnitude wasn't high. The building could easily withstand it. There was no need to panic and flee in such a hurry, not to mention the zombies outside. TSK, I told you not to rush. None of you let me finish speaking. Earthquakes are scary, but not as scary as zombies. I turned to look at the empty office building, feeling an inexplicable excitement in my heart. God knows how much I wished this building would collapse the next day. When I was working overtime until midnight, I passed by the messy cubicles, the break room, the office. Everywhere was littered with traces of a hasty escape. I walked to my workstation with practiced ease, rummaging through the drawer for the energy drinks I had stockpiled earlier. Although the zombies couldn't enter this building yet, they would soon find a way in. This place is still not safe for long stays. The best strategy is to retreat. I armed myself, checked the map again, and prepared to head toward the entrance of the underground fortress. Suddenly, a faint voice came from beside the seat. Sister Linda, can you take me with you? Lucy, why are you still here? Lucy is the intern in the department, because she's too soft and easy to bully. All the dirty and tiring work gets dumped on her. Yet the girl never utters a word of complaint and gets everything done. Every time I see her working late into the night, I can't help but think of myself when I first started the job. This time, I had already prepared myself to just save my own skin, but the moment she spoke up, my heart softened again. There was a thumping sound from outside. And suddenly she clung to me. Sister Linda, don't leave me, I'm scared. I pursed my lips, listening. It didn't sound like zombies. Probably the elevator fell. At the end of the world, people's hearts turn cold. The intern was terrified, her grip on my arms so tight it hurt as I struggled to lead both of us toward the exit. The elevator was no longer usable, leaving the stairs as our only option. For some reason, unease crept into my heart. The air was eerily quiet. Could the zombies have already broken in? No sooner had I spoken than a grotesque blue face suddenly appeared around the corner, like a green-faced monster with fangs, the veins on its neck bulging all the way to its temples. It bared its teeth and lunged at me. The change happened too fast. I only had time to push the intern aside before being pinned against the wall myself. After living over 20 years and reading countless CEO romance novels, who would have thought my first Cape Dawn would be from a zombie? If word got out, wouldn't people die laughing? Lucy crouched beside me, trembling uncontrollably, and didn't respond no matter how many times I called her name. The zombie's teeth were just an inch away from me when suddenly a lever was pushed to my right. A powerful jet of water burst from the pipe, blasting the face-hugging zombie away and sending it crashing into the wall, where it collapsed motionless. I looked at the fire hydrant beside me, my heart filled with gratitude. Amen. Dragging the intern along as we fled, she kept apologizing to me non-stop. I'm sorry, Sister Linda, it's all my fault. I'm so useless. Please don't abandon me, I beg you. If I were a boy, my dad wouldn't have abandoned me, and Mom, it's all my fault. Sobs. After hearing her words, for a moment I didn't know who to blame. Should I blame the outdated mindset of favoring sons over daughters that still exists in this day and age, or should I blame the deep-seated cowardice in the girl before me? Her grip on my arm was seriously hindering my ability to act, not to mention the horde of zombies outside. With a sharp smack, I slapped her arm hard. If you want to live, escape with me. Stop crying here. Cry one more time, and the zombie will bite you first. After saying that, I pointed at her warningly. My words are prophetic. You just saw it yourself. Whatever I say comes true. If there's one difference between this apocalypse and the world before my rebirth, it's my mouth, which rivals that of a prophet. At first, I didn't take it seriously, but remembering how the little green tea girl's hair fell out in front of me, and the zombie head that appeared the moment I finished speaking, I had to reconsider. Could it really be connected to my words? Once is happenstance, twice is coincidence. But surely not a third time, so I deliberately tested it. The zombies outside should have gone south by now. It should be safe for us to leave. In my previous life, I remember the zombie siege of this building lasted a long time, and we were eventually rescued by armed forces. But when I climbed down from the 15th floor via the stairs, the outside was eerily silent. The ground was littered with white bones and bloodied, mangled bodies, making Lucy gag uncontrollably. I thought I had been through this once before, but my stomach still churned. Fortunately, I managed to hold it in, otherwise, my tough persona would have crumbled. Outside, the sky was shrouded in fog, obscuring its original blue hue. Severed limbs and corpses were scattered everywhere. Up ahead, Mr. bald's head seemed to have twisted 180 degrees from his body, his bulging eyes staring at something unseen. I knew I must have developed some kind of special ability, but without transportation, it would still be quite difficult for just the two of us girls to make it to the underground bunker hundreds of kilometers away. We couldn't just sit and wait for death. Instead of rushing out recklessly, I went back to the underground garage of the building, pulled a set of car keys from my pocket, pressed the alarm button, and got into the nearest SUV. As I stepped on the gas and was about to start the car, the rear door suddenly opened with a click, making my hair stand on end instantly. Only a weak and feeble voice could be heard. "Sister Linda, can you take me with you?" I turned around to look. It was a guy from our group, Queen Eric. He got his nickname for being more gossipy than the girls. Lucy was so scared her heart nearly stopped, and only now did she manage to catch her breath. I paused for a moment and asked him, "You haven't been bitten by a zombie, have you?" He waved his hands repeatedly. "No. I may not usually confront things head-on, but I'm good at running away. Those killed by zombies aren't the scary part. What's terrifying is being infected by the virus yet remaining physically intact, because the wounded quickly become one of them. There isn't no solution to the virus, but right now we're running for our lives. We can't afford the slightest mistake. Moreover, the vaccine hasn't been developed yet, which is like carrying an invisible bomb." After repeatedly confirming, I still decided to take him along out of consideration for our colleague relationship. We sped all the way, knocking down countless zombies that attacked us. While gripping the steering wheel, I didn't forget to take out a hammer and smash the withered zombie hands clinging to the windows to pieces. They both watched my extreme maneuvers and exclaimed, "Sis, you're my goddess." I smiled and replied, "That meme's old." Just as the car was speeding along, about to leave the city, someone suddenly grabbed my shoulder, busy with my hands. I passed the hammer backward. "Eric." Beat the crap out of him, but unexpectedly, there was no response. Lucy gaped beside me. "Sis, he's mutating." "What?" I turned my head to look, and sure enough, his skin had already begun to stiffen and change color, his joints were becoming rigid, and he was in a daze. I threw away the hammer in my hand, focused on driving, and ordered, "Lucy, climb into the back seat, I'll open the door, and you push him out." With a calm tone and expressionless face, Lucy couldn't bear it. "Sis, is this really okay? If you don't do this, I can throw both you and him out." At a life-or-death moment, who would still play the saint? Would anyone throw away their own chance to survive? What a joke. We drove northward, and the scenes outside grew increasingly desolate and tragic. The streets, long ravaged by zombies, were completely empty. Lucy was still shaken, and I rarely offered comfort, saying, "It'll be better once we're out of the city." Zombies instinctively gravitate toward places with human presence. As long as we left the city, we'd be much safer. At this critical moment, we discovered the car was out of gas. I watched the needle on the dashboard nearing empty and silently wished, if only a gas station would miraculously appear around the corner. Amen. To my right stood a shabby convenience store, and I felt like crying. This place didn't look like it had a gas station anywhere nearby, but as if to prove the supernatural power I seemed to possess, the moment I turned the corner, a tiny, almost impossibly small gas station appeared, with just enough fuel left to fill up my car. The surroundings were so quiet that after we got out of the car, we moved quickly and furtively to fill the gas can to the brim. I was just about to sneak back to the car when suddenly something pressed against the small of my back. Instinctively, I wanted to turn around, but the person behind me barked, "Don't move." Out of the corner of my eye, I caught a glimpse of his shoulder insignia. Must be the security team arriving. Bro, we're good people, on your side." The man remained completely unmoved. "With so many zombies around, how could two defenseless weak women like you survive? And you even stole fuel from the supply station. Do you take me for a fool, huh? Looking down on women? What's wrong with women? Without women, could you even have been born? Keep spouting nonsense, and I'll personally strangle you." "Your mother." He didn't take it seriously, tilting his chin up. "This bike, a men's model. Your boyfriend bought it for you, didn't he? Still relying on a man to support you." The patriarchal mindset ingrained in East Asian men's bones almost made me vomit. Just as I was about to teach him a lesson, a zombie suddenly lunged at us from the side. The man froze instantly, his eyes wide and fixed, muttering, "Oh my God." I kicked him. "Useless man, only knows to call for mom at a time like this." The next second, the zombie grabbed his neck tightly with both hands, yet he didn't dodge, his eyes brimming with tears. "Mom, you know what? Upon closer look, these two really do resemble each other." Could it be that my mouth prophesied again? In the blink of an eye, I snatched the gun from his hand and blew the zombie's head open. Blue liquid splattered across my face, slightly cool to the touch. The metallic scent of blood filled my nostrils. Quickly overwhelmed by a putrid stench, Lucy started retching beside me again. It's indeed a bit weak. I patted the man on the shoulder, and he seemed to snap out of it, glaring at me furiously as he shouted, "You killed my mom." I turned the gun around and struck him hard with the butt. "I fucking saved you." A zombie already infected by the virus wouldn't care about human ethics or family bonds. At a life and death moment, even human hearts are unpredictable, let alone these mindless, attacking zombies. The man seemed to have lost his soul, but Lucy and I still had to flee. Together, we dragged him into the car and sped toward the eastern fortress listed on his work ID. Outside, the setting sun pierced through layers of mist, dyeing half the sky red. It was a strangely beautiful sight, like the eerie allure before death. The man in the back seat suddenly spoke up. "You've died once too, haven't you? Supernatural abilities are born from death, as it turns out." When you don't know what to say, keeping your mouth shut is the best choice. The three of us remained silent all the way to the fortress gate. It wasn't until I saw the guard stationed there that I realized the ticket to survival in this world was no longer first come, first served. Instead, those with supernatural abilities had a greater chance of surviving, and could even extend that privilege to their loved ones. The man jumped down from the vehicle, and the escort team members gathered around him. "Captain Jasper, where's Auntie? Did you bring her back?" The man remained silent, and the others understood. After all, in these life-or-death moments, accidents are all too common. Survival itself is something to be grateful for. While handling paperwork nearby, I overheard their conversation and deduced that the man was a squad leader of the escort team, someone with special abilities. According to the regulations, he could bring 2 relatives into the underground bunker, but his father had passed away early, and his mother was his only family, yet she had just sacrificed herself right before his eyes. While passing by after completing the formalities, I whispered to him, "I'm sorry, if I had another chance, I wouldn't hesitate against the zombies. But if possible, I wouldn't have done it in front of him." His body froze, afraid he might misunderstand. I quickly added, "But I know I didn't do anything wrong. The living are what truly matter. Those TV drama plots about trading lives are just plain stupid." After entering the fortress base, I never crossed paths with that person again. Instead, quite a few officers approached me, hoping I'd contribute my abilities to protect humanity. "Sir, I have just one request. I've heard relatives have a chance to enter the fortress. I'd like you to send your best armed forces to bring my family here." The uniformed officer across nodded and instructed his secretary to retrieve the documents. Unexpectedly, a complication arose. "Comrade Linda, our system shows your family has already been safely relocated to the fortress. Here's the list." I glanced at the list he handed over. 2 names stood out, Bob Santos and Fiona Santos. "Wait, Commander. I don't recognize these people. Could you check who registered them?" As I left the meeting room, new doubts arose in my mind, both with the surname Santos. Could it be? Bang, bang, bang. I knocked on Lucy Santos's door. "Coming." "Who is it?" A woman's voice responded from inside, distinctly different from that of a young girl. The door opened to reveal an unfamiliar middle-aged woman with permed hair, her eyes and brows bearing some resemblance. "Fiona." She gave me a suspicious glance. "Who are you? What do you want?" "Just as I thought. Is your daughter here? Ask her to come out for a moment." At first I was being polite, but they treated me like a thief, pressing against the door, shouting inside. The scene suddenly felt absurd. Clearly, they were the ones who stole my spot. Lucy came out wrapped in a bathrobe, looking lazy and relaxed. It's been a few days since we last met, and it's obvious that she's been living quite comfortably here, unable to suppress my anger. My expression naturally turned unpleasant as I coldly said, "Explain the matter of the family quota." Who would have thought she would play dumb? "Sister Linda, what quota are you talking about?" "I don't know." For the first time, I realized that someone who usually submits to oppression could have such a smug side to them. "Lucy, playing dumb, are you? Let's just say I brought back a dog. Do you think your parents will be kicked out of the base tomorrow if I file my report? I have special abilities. This spot was rightfully mine to begin with, and when she first entered the base, she only got in by piggybacking on that man surnamed Martin's quota. I was certain she wouldn't dare confront me head-on, yet she didn't seem to care at all. Her robe hung open, revealing a silk camisole underneath. "Sister Linda, why don't you try it first before saying anything?" After leaving Lucy's place, strangely enough, I actually hit a wall with this matter. The person registering told me that once the list is finalized, it can't be easily changed, unless I can bring my relative back, conduct a paternity test, and confirm that there was a mistake in the list. Then a replacement might be possible. What's worse, the base won't lend me any armed forces. I have to go alone. I cursed under my breath several times, grabbed a few defensive items from the armory, and sprinted toward the exit. I don't know how many zombie attacks have occurred outside. I can only pray in my heart that my mother is still alive. In the previous world, although I eventually escaped into an underground bunker, I never saw my mother again. It was a world without supernatural abilities, where everyone was ordinary, fighting against the apocalypse in their ordinary way, and then turning to ashes in their ordinary death. As I reached the exit, someone suddenly stopped me. Looking up, I realized it was that person with the surname Martin. I was in a bad mood and shot a glare, but then that officer popped up beside me. "Miss Linda, I can't help you with the list, but I've found you the strongest fighter in the entire base. This time, we're sure to succeed." Holding on to the idea that it's better to take what's offered, I nodded in agreement. It wasn't until a tall figure blocked my path that I realized just how small the world is. Charles. He stood before me like an impenetrable wall, and suddenly, the buried memories came flooding back. Charles, my ex-boyfriend, whom I angrily broke up with after years of being out of touch. Back then, he was so deeply engrossed in his research that he couldn't extricate himself, and with us being in different countries, we often went days without exchanging more than a few words. I was the one who initiated the breakup, and then I completely disappeared from his life. Right now, with that expression on his face, it's really hard not to suspect that he's back for revenge. "Sir, can we switch to someone else?" I whispered softly. Before the other could respond, Charles directly pulled me onto the nearby aircraft. "Want to switch? Wait until I'm dead." I froze for a moment. Those words sounded oddly familiar. Before he went abroad, we were still that clingy couple, deeply in love. Because of the distance, I truly had no confidence in our future. I would ask 800 times a day, "Will we break up?" At this point, he would pull me over for some punishment, then say to me, "Thinking of replacing me?" "Not unless I'm dead." The memories overlap, but everything has changed beyond recognition. I'm no longer a naive girl who can't live without someone, without giving me a chance to refuse. He directly pulled me along and flew towards the destination. He pressed a few buttons on the control panel, set the flight target, then turned to look at me thoughtfully. "What are you staring at? Never seen a beauty before?" He used to be a man of few words, but this time he snapped back. "I've seen beauties before, just never one like you." I was left speechless, momentarily at a loss for a comeback. He seized the initiative. "You, still as unlearned as ever, how did you even get access?" I sneered. "Me, I can divine the future, of course." With a flick of his fingers, he put on a mysterious air. "Tisk, the celestial signs aren't favorable today. There's bound to be a calamity later." The corner of his mouth lifted slightly. He must have been mocking me in his heart. "What era is this? You're still the same, spouting all this idealist nonsense. What's the point?" Who would have thought that just a second later, the aircraft jolted violently, and the dashboard began blaring warning alarms. "Damn, he actually called it," he muttered under his breath, and every word reached my ears. "Nonsense, I'm holding the Prophet's script here." He stepped forward, maneuvering the control stick to dodge the air currents. When an unexpected flying stone hit the windshield ahead, the crack seemed to be spreading. I stayed frozen in place, and after a while, all I heard was his gritted teeth. "Linda, come help, stop playing dead, I know you can do it." He was right. When we finally avoided the air currents and flying rocks, landing safely at our destination, the memories of the past suddenly came back to haunt me. Charles is a quintessential STEM guy, researching artificial intelligence with a passion for mechanics and physics. Meanwhile, I'm a romantic humanities student, but because I was dating him, I ended up studying those technical books alongside him. In the end, I became more knowledgeable about mechanics and physics than my own major. I thought my romantic impulses had long died out, but today's signs have made me an old man indulging in youthful folly. What a sin, what a sin, but I still had my dear mother in mind, so I quickly put on my down jacket and stepped off the aircraft. With the thick fog blocking the sun, the ground temperature had dropped to near freezing. Despite being in the southernmost part of the country, the temperature showed no mercy to the latitude. There was 10 centimeters of snow on the ground. But instead of the excitement a southerner might feel at the sight of snow, anxiety and tension weighed heavily on my heart. With the zombie rampage, the buildings must have lost power and water. Whether my mom could survive was another question entirely. I prayed silently, even though I had been away from home for years and our bond might seem shallow. No one knew how much I truly cared about my mother. The door of the apartment building was stuck in the middle due to warping, only allowing one person to pass through at a time. As I squeezed past, I tripped. Charles heard the noise, turned around to pull me through, but even after passing the door, his hand never let go. What? Even after breaking up, you're still taking advantage of me? I've always used words to push him away. It's been my habit all along, but this time was different from before. He didn't let go as if shocked, nor did he respond with silence. Instead, he turned to look at me and said, "It's the end of the world anyway, so let me take advantage for once, okay?" It wasn't his usual tone, yet somehow, I found it oddly comforting. The pressure and presence through the gloves momentarily masked my unease. Climbing up to the 9th floor left me slightly out of breath, though the path was littered with blue zombie corpses. Fortunately, they were all completely dead and no longer a threat. As I finished the last few steps, my momentarily relaxed nerves tensed up again at the strange noises coming from behind the door. He and I crouched behind the fire escape's heavy door, each gripping an iron pipe as a makeshift weapon. 3, 2, 1. I pushed the door open with all my might, only to be greeted not by eerie blue zombies, but by a face-to-face attack from a disgustingly dirty mop. "Mom, why did you hit me so hard?" Recognizing the person, I finally let out a sigh of relief, but not without complaining. Kathy truly lives up to her reputation for having a great attitude. The moment she saw it was me, she lit up with joy. "If I hadn't fought hard, you wouldn't be seeing your old mom here today." Only then did I realize that wave after wave of zombies had been attacking, and Kathy had managed to keep them all behind this door using various methods. A surge of admiration and gratitude welled up in my heart, and just as tears were about to form, Kathy suddenly threw down the weapon in her hand and cheerfully said to me, "Let's go. Weren't you two planning to take me somewhere nice?" "Mom, you're way too quick to make yourself at home." I cleared my throat, trying to figure out how to introduce Charles. Kathy, true to her usual style, abruptly cut me off. "Hey, I know. Isn't this the man you couldn't have but still pine for?" "Mom, stop talking nonsense." Out of the corner of my eye, I caught Charles's barely suppressed smirk. This guy must be feeling incredibly smug inside. All right, I'm talking nonsense. It wasn't you who cried for 3 days and nights after the breakup, couldn't sleep at midnight, and called out for your mom. It was me, okay?" With that, she affectionately linked arms with Charles again. "Let's go, son-in-law, time to board." My mom and Charles were getting along like family, chatting about all sorts of trivial matters on the aircraft. For a moment, I even wondered if this apocalypse was just mine alone. I gazed out the window at the unremarkable view, lost in thought for a long while. When I turned back, I realized their conversation had already shifted to marriage plans. Someone like Linda is too sensitive and prone to overthinking. When she's in a relationship, I suffer more than she does. These days, I don't ask for much, just taking it one day at a time. As long as she doesn't make trouble, I just hope she finds someone who can protect her. Charles hesitated for a moment before asking, "Auntie, what do you think of me?" I thought my mom would happily hand me over, but to my surprise, she suddenly became serious. "Young man, you're outstanding and successful in your career, but in my eyes, you're still not qualified. Being together requires mutual support and shared effort. During those years you were dating, you couldn't even provide verbal companionship and comfort. How can you expect her to still be waiting for you? This child is love-struck and stubborn. Though I scold her, I have to admit that what she wants, you can't give." The atmosphere in the aircraft remained heavy for a long time, but fortunately, we arrived at our destination without any major incidents. After going through the tedious process, I finally managed to remove Lucy's parents from my family list. When I got back, she was waiting for me at my door, which didn't surprise me at all. Gone was the smug look from before. This time, her hair was a mess, probably a sign of desperation. "Linda, please, can you help me one more time? My mom's health isn't good. She can't handle that kind of work," she pleaded with tears streaming down her face, but her words fell on deaf ears, leaving me unmoved. "Lucy, if you had known this would happen, why did you act that way in the first place?" "During our escape, I helped you out of old camaraderie as former colleagues. Now, if I choose not to help you, that's simply me doing my duty. Even the ancestors taught this principle. How could you have forgotten?" She looked on the verge of tears. Wouldn't anyone who saw her feel pity? She thought kind people deserved to be used by her, but unfortunately she was wrong. I was never a kind person to begin with, especially toward a family like hers. But my mother is old and in poor health, she really can't take it. I interrupted her with a cold tone. If you really care, why don't you go yourself? Those not on the list must work at the fuel pile, doing the dirtiest and hardest labor to stay in the base. For a family of 3 with only 2 spots, they sent the mother to the fuel pile. Imagine how terrifying such a family mindset is. Women are always the ones sacrificed. I have no interest in knowing who Lucy hooked up with to survive in the base, in this post-apocalyptic world of awakened abilities. All I can do is rely on my own strength to keep myself and Ms. Kathy together a little longer. Due to the thick fog, the surface is no longer habitable, and the underground fortresses are nearing capacity. Some have proposed developing new survivor bases, but 2 factions are now locked in a fierce dispute over the location. Since I got into the high-level meetings with my special ability, I've realized that these idiots don't talk about anything substantial every day, nothing but nonsense. I curled up in the corner, burying my head in my hood, pretending to sleep. Suddenly, one of them woke me up. Sleeping during a meeting, what kind of behavior is this? I rubbed my sleepy eyes and instinctively replied, they're all just scraps of paper, nothing worth discussing. Having lost face, he tried to regain his dignity. How capable are you, then? If you're so smart, tell us where to choose. Choose the ground. Isn't it just the fog you're afraid of? Don't worry, the fog will lift. I patted his shoulder again as a gesture of comfort. Hey, you little brat, you think you can just walk away? Not only were you slacking off during the meeting, but you also had the nerve to talk back. His hands suddenly reached out, and I didn't have time to dodge the attack. Just as I braced myself to endure it and plot revenge, the slap never landed. Charles grabbed the other person's wrist. Who are you calling a little brat, old man? I really couldn't hold back and burst out laughing. Charles's height and imposing presence were overwhelming, clearly putting the other party at a disadvantage in terms of demeanor, yet, relying on his seniority, he remained defiant. The criticism then turned toward me. Did I say anything wrong? From the moment we entered the base until now, has this girl done a single thing, just because of some vague supernatural ability? She thinks she can lord it over us? Bullshit. Charles was about to say something, but I stopped him. Old man, didn't you say you don't trust me? Well, I'll show you what it feels like to be proven wrong. The meeting room fell into an awkward silence due to our conflict. I walked around the room, casually picked a chair, and sat down. The next person who walks in will dance a girl group routine on this table. Believe it or not, everyone looked at me with skeptical eyes, except for Charles, who seemed utterly convinced. Smiling as if waiting for some entertaining show, a minute passed, and sure enough, someone knocked on the conference room door. To my surprise, it was none other than Lucy, an old acquaintance, now serving as the meeting secretary. Her entry naturally wouldn't raise any suspicion. Hesitating at the door, she seemed to hold back her words. I chuckled lightly and said, Secretary Lucy, your timing is perfect. Everyone's bored stiff in this meeting. How about you liven things up with a little dance? I bent my knuckles and tapped on the table, watching her with leisurely amusement. Everyone found it absurd, convinced that Lucy would never agree to my unreasonable demand, yet, to their surprise, the very next second, Lucy actually kicked off her high heels, climbed onto the table, and danced to the hottest K-pop song of the moment. Though I couldn't fathom why, even as the world was ending, the spirit of K-pop still burned so fiercely. It must be something ingrained in her blood. I really want to ask if her ancestors came from across the ocean. Before the jaws of all those old men could hit the floor, Charles shooed Lucy out, and in that moment, I thought I saw her breathe a sigh of relief too. I turned my head, raised an eyebrow, and couldn't hide the smugness in my voice. Well, gentlemen, satisfied. If you still don't believe me, I wouldn't mind seeing one of you take the stage next, though this stage won't be limited to just this room. These people are very concerned about face, always speaking in high-sounding terms, so naturally, one must know the right approach to handle them. The meeting ended in a mix of brilliance and awkwardness. And those stubborn old men no longer dared to hurl insults at me, though they were reluctant to admit it. My prophetic nature was indeed confirmed. In the memories that followed, they didn't give me much trouble anymore. Kathy and I were assigned a 2-bedroom apartment with a living room. Though a bit small, it was considered decent accommodation in the base where every inch of land was precious. I returned to the 9-to-5 grind of corporate life. As if nothing had changed since before the apocalypse, it was only later that I learned about Charles's ability, which I had never asked about. his extraordinary computational skills and exceptional observational prowess. So, Charles's superpower is proving that I'm right. Ms. Kathy was washing vegetables in the kitchen while chatting with me about the gossip in the base. Exactly, Charles is a good guy. And he's protective of you, why not consider rekindling things? I munched on the fruit Charles had brought over a few days ago, casually replying, who was it that gave me all those convincing reasons to break up with him before? Long-distance relationships, even dogs wouldn't bother. This time, Ms. Kathy started playing coy. Well, that was true back then, but you two aren't long-distance now. Just take a right turn and walk 100 meters, and you're at his room. I wouldn't even mind if you didn't come back to sleep at night, Mom. Are you selling your daughter or shipping a couple here? She chuckled. Romance is always more fun to watch from the sidelines, but Ms. Kathy isn't the type of elder who nags about marriage or kids. She's all about gossip and handsome young men. Then she abruptly changed the subject. That colleague of yours, I heard she was someone's mistress. The wife came knocking the other day and beat her till her face was covered in blood. Turns out the wife was a special forces soldier. How could she possibly win? Now her whole family's been sent to the fuel pile to do hard labor. I followed the same routine every day and never saw her again. My impression of her was still stuck on that table dance performance, but this was what she deserved. Not only did she repay kindness with betrayal by taking my spot, but she also showed no remorse. I'd long since experienced how she would stop at nothing to achieve her goals. I just never expected to see her again, especially under these circumstances. 2 months later, Charles and I were to be dispatched to the newly established base. Getting on the aircraft with him again, my mood was no longer as uneasy as last time. The disaster of the apocalypse is like a Pandora's blind box, but humanity has learned to coexist with it. We arrived early, and the machine was still undergoing pre-flight maintenance when someone suddenly greeted me. Turning around, I realized it was Lucy, whom I hadn't seen in days. She was no longer the seductive figure in a bathrobe from before. Her face showed signs of peeling skin, and the heavy dark circles and nasolabial folds made her look a decade older. I felt a bit emotional, but it wasn't to the point of cutting all ties. Since she called out to me, I nodded in her direction. She must have changed positions, pushing a cart of tools and standing by for the maintenance crew. Linda, can you help me? I can't lift this by myself. The long unheard form of address instantly brought back memories of her hiding under the desk, calling out to me for help. Okay, it was just a small favor, and I didn't suspect anything unusual. Moving it was a simple task, focused on the heavy component in front of me. I didn't realize that a wrench was less than 10 centimeters away from me at that very moment. Suddenly, a force knocked me down, followed by a clang. The sound of metal striking. Lucy's attack, originally intended for me, landed on the component instead. Judging by the sound, it was a deadly strike. Charles shielded me in his arms, his heavy panting audible as he asked anxiously, "Are you okay?" He then turned around, his usual composed and elite demeanor gone, his hair disheveled, his tone filled with anger. "Lucy, what were you trying to do?" I shook my head at him, signaling that I was fine, pushing him aside to stand up. Lucy was already restrained by the guards. I could see the hatred burning in her eyes as she glared at me. "Lucy, do you hate me?" Before she could speak, I raised my voice to cut her off. "What right do you have to hate me? Without me, you wouldn't even have survived long enough to get here. If I'd known you wanted to kill me, I should have thrown you to the zombies back then." Her gaze at me was fierce, as if I owed her from a past life. How laughable. Her baseless jealousy and hatred would drive her to seek my death. "Listen, Lucy, whether before or now, I've stood my ground by my own abilities. Someone like you, who's accustomed to relying on others, will never understand, since she's destined to cling to something in this life. Let her experience the feeling of being utterly alone. The new base needs more hands." "Right, I think she'd be perfect for it." Charles followed up with a cutting remark. "Comrade, Lucy is so handy with a wrench, might as well go tighten screws then." "All right, that's harsh, tightening screws at the new base. Isn't that just reinforcing the barriers outside? 18 hours of outdoor work a day." He's even harsher than the capitalists. 3 years later, the new base was finally completed, and I was assigned to be stationed there as one of the chief administrators. Accompanying me was that tagalong, Charles. On moving day, Ms. Kathy looked at him with the delight of a mother-in-law admiring her son-in-law. The two of them seemed to have transcended blood ties and legal bonds, becoming like family, a scene that made me feel like the outsider. The new house assigned at the base is a bit larger, so I decided to set aside a space for a studio. I tidied up until nearly midnight. Just as I was almost done, the surroundings suddenly went dark, groping for the switch in the darkness. I couldn't restore the light, the power system must have shut down automatically. I haven't had the chance to submit the application yet. The emptiness around offered no response. I tentatively called out, "Charles." Suddenly, before my eyes appeared scattered points of light, the starry night sky in the outskirts before the apocalypse arrived. My heart suddenly began to race because of the surprise before me. And there stood Charles beneath the starry sky he had prepared for me. His eyes clear and bright. "Linda, I wonder if I might have the honor of being your comrade for life. I know you're someone who seeks shelter, so could you give me a chance to fight alongside you?" It was actually an ordinary projection light, so ordinary it couldn't be more ordinary, even dazzling my eyes to the point of blurriness, yet somehow, amidst the surrounding fragments, my gaze only found his eyes. Just as I was deeply moved and about to speak, I suddenly heard a faint whisper by my ear, "Say yes, say yes, say yes." I sighed helplessly. "Mom, peeking isn't a good habit." The voice paused for a moment, and I could almost sense her guilt, before it changed to, "Kiss, kiss, kiss. What can you do with your own mother? Just spoil her." Charles smiled with his eyes and planted a deep kiss on my forehead. "Now, I no longer need to rely on anyone for a sense of security. Neither of us has to beg humbly. For love is merely the comfort and tenderness left to us before the end of days. Then live freely, Charles. You only get one chance, so make it count." I nestled in his arms, but could hear Ms. Kathy's muttering, "Hooray, happy ending." After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, let's continue to see another similar story. I accidentally clicked on an icon that mysteriously appeared on my phone and entered a post-apocalyptic survival game. There's only one rule: survive until the end of the apocalypse. When other players heard that the ability I chose was spatial storage, they all laughed at me. "What's the use of such a useless ability? Do you want to be our personal storage cabinet?" But who told them my ability only works on inanimate objects? I was sucked in by a beam of light and found myself in an unfamiliar place. With the system's prompt, I learned I was in an apocalyptic survival game. There was only one rule: after the 3-month novice protection period, survive as long as possible until the apocalypse ends. The winner will share $1 billion. As far as the eye could see, a dense crowd of participating players filled the space. Someone was the first to ask, "What's the penalty for losing?" The system's emotionless electronic voice echoed in everyone's ears. "Game over means real death." The scene erupted in an uproar, with alarm bells ringing loudly in the hearts of all participating players. Through conversation, I learned that they had also entered this world by clicking on an unfamiliar icon in their phones. Accompanied by the system's prompt tone, an illustrated manual appeared before everyone's eyes. "Please select a special ability as your winning stake. Note that this ability is unique." Before the system's voice had even faded, someone, fearing they might miss out on their desired power, had already made a move. I reached out to click on Mind Control, but a tall man shoved me, causing me to stumble and fall. He flashed an ingratiating smile at the woman beside him. "Tiffany, I know you're the kindest. I think this mind control ability would suit you perfectly. This way you won't have to worry about getting blood on your hands." Tiffany blushed shyly and said, "Jack, I'm so glad you're here to help me. I wouldn't know what to do otherwise." I could only watch helplessly as the abilities I wanted to choose were taken by others, while also being forced to endure this sickeningly sweet display of affection. One by one, the icons in the catalog, super strength, wind blades, healing, shields, and various other abilities, grayed out, until only some useless, leftover powers remained. After much deliberation, I ultimately chose spatial storage as my future reliance. Once everyone had made their selections, the catalog vanished. To my surprise, the system publicly revealed the abilities each person had chosen. The man who pushed me was Jack, who had selected the power of light. He walked up to me, looking at me like I was an idiot. "You're not much to look at, and it turns out you're not much of a thinker either. What's the point of the ability you chose?" Planning to be a mobile storage cabinet in the apocalypse, Tiffany leaned against him, her beautiful eyes flickering with amusement. "The more fools like her, the better. Fewer people to split the bonus with." At these words, everyone's eyes lit up. Some gathered around Jack and his companion, while others formed alliances in separate groups. Only I remained completely isolated. But who said my ability only worked on inanimate objects? Ignoring the players engaged in heated discussions, I walked straight into my residence during the novice protection period. a small but fully equipped bachelor apartment, with no one around. I began testing my theory. Since we're in the newbie protection period, not taking full advantage of it would be truly foolish. As I activated my ability, I found myself in a void-like space, which immediately put my mind at ease. I didn't miss the small line of text beneath the spatial storage ability, everything can be stored, but soon. The energy shield of the newbie protection period issued a warning. Sensing something amiss, I decisively exited the space. Vacuum. This space is completely vacuum sealed. Fortunately, I'm still within the protection period, otherwise, I might have become the first player to die by their own ability, but even a vacuum can be adjusted. I am like a greedy glutton, yet also a diligent bee, centered around my room, wantonly collecting the surrounding air. Although this cannot completely transform the vacuum into a habitable environment for humans, it is sufficient to serve as a temporary refuge. I open the game panel on my wrist and quickly familiarize myself with this world through the beginner's guide. Fortunately, this place has land proportional to the real world and still adheres to the laws of order. Unfortunately, we players don't belong to any country, and I don't even know whether these NPCs are friends or foes. But I know full well that the crisis brought by the apocalypse includes not only extreme heat, freezing cold, viruses, and zombies, but also the reconstruction of the wasteland. Right now, what I want most urgently is to obtain a legal identity from a powerful nation. Individual strength is so insignificant in the face of apocalyptic disasters. The only thing we can do is unite. Obviously, those players who have conflicting interests with me cannot gain my trust. So I chose to join the NPC faction. The newbie protection period is a double-edged sword. While it provides me with protection, it also restricts my actions. During these 3 months, I cannot leave the beginner's village. However, within the beginner's village, there are many NPC players, and interacting with them can trigger quests. Complete the task to earn exclusive crystal coins, which can be used to purchase items in the beginner's village. However, these items must be stored and managed by yourself after exchange. Players show no interest in the tasks issued by these NPCs because they simply have no space to store the items. Some even mock me when they see me diligently helping NPCs find their lost wallets. A useless person chose a worthless ability, then wasted time on missions to buy utterly pointless gems. Indeed, the shop window displayed only various colored gems, large, dazzling stones that seemed to serve no purpose beyond aesthetics. Who has time to waste here? They're busy improving their ability proficiency, busy searching for ways to level up their powers. Though I still don't know the true purpose of these gems, my years of gaming intuition tell me that the game would never include completely useless items. For this reason, I took on almost every quest available in the beginner's village. By the time I had collected all the gems from the shopping mall displays into my space, 3 months had passed in the blink of an eye. The system's voice rang out once more. All players are about to leave the beginner's village and will receive 1 free teleportation opportunity. After you adapt for 3 months, the Apocalypse Challenge will officially begin. I confirmed the selected teleportation location on the game panel on my wrist, an uninhabited cave beneath an iceberg in Antarctica. This time, the system did an excellent job of protecting every player's whereabouts. 100 game players were dropped onto a land spanning 510,072,000 square kilometers, Antarctica. Here I come. In this world, Antarctica remains uninhabited, and even with current technological advancements, many areas are still beyond exploration. Every nation holds a keen interest in developing Antarctica, with great difficulty. I located the Z Country research station built in Antarctica and handed over the underground crystals obtained using my spatial storage ability. What? You're saying you discovered these crystals at a depth of 4,000 meters below the sea surface, and you also found some animal remains and fossils? Facing the excited group of research NPCs, I nodded calmly and stated my request. Yes, I haven't fabricated anything. I've also properly preserved those fossils. I'm willing to hand over everything I've found to the country, asking only for legal citizenship in Z Country in return. As I wished, I once again had a place to belong. Even if I were rejected, I had the means to escape unscathed. After loading various gemstones into my space, it underwent a transformation. I could remotely collect anything I desired and store it in my space. One of the items I used for exchange was from the depths of Antarctica. Apart from that, adhering to the principle of take what you can, I gifted the Z family with the country's latest scientific research achievements. As for various strategic supplies, I also collected a significant amount from other nations and anonymously distributed them across Z Country's territory. The NPCs had mixed opinions about this, with some ignorant ones even crying out about the unfairness of God. The players were engaged in heated discussions, suspecting each other, but no one paid any attention to me yet. There was no helping it, I was just too inconspicuous. Countdown. 0 days, the apocalypse arrives. Dear players, I hope you're enjoying yourselves. I could hear a hint of schadenfreude in the system's voice. Boom, a deafening explosion echoed as the planet we were on was violently struck by an asteroid. Volcanoes erupted, oceans surged inland, tectonic plates shifted. Who would have thought that the disaster arriving before the zombie outbreak would be nature itself? Some ability users who wanted to rely solely on their own powers found themselves struggling. The system, considerately, showed us the final moments of the deceased players. Ice ability users could use their powers to mitigate the scorching heat from volcanic eruptions, but they would still be killed by flying rock fragments. Earth ability users might temporarily stabilize buildings amidst raging floods, but human strength has its limits. When their energy was exhausted, death remained inevitable. I glanced at the player list on the left side of the panel, which only displayed each player's name. The number of online players had decreased by nearly 1/3. According to the system's explanation, those who logged off in the game would never wake up in reality either. The game discussion area was bustling with activity. I never expected the communication zone to openly use everyone's real-world ID photos as avatars, with their respective supernatural abilities prefixed to their names. Psychic controller Tiffany, why would the system show such cruel scenes? It's absolutely terrifying, it must be said. Tiffany is truly at the level of a campus belle. Even her ID photo avatar is incredibly pure and charming. Seeing such a delicate little beauty speak up, someone immediately stepped forward to assert their presence. Lightning ability user Jason, don't be scared, little sister, do you want Big Brother to protect you? Light ability user Jack, loose lip sync ships, mind your own business, I somewhat doubt. Aren't they afraid of being recognized by other players for their abilities and getting targeted? But perhaps they simply don't care. Those currently active and chatting freely in the discussion zone are all powerful ability users with alliances. Other slightly weaker ability users must already be suffering from natural geological disasters. Clearly, at this point, it's already too late for them to join any alliance. The world is too vast, they simply can't make it there. As for seeking help from local NPC nations, that's nothing but a pipe dream. The other players, thinking themselves superior to NPCs, don't take them seriously at all. How could they ever gain the NPC's acceptance? As for me, thanks to the fossils I previously handed over to Country Z, I obtained legal resident status and was even specially invited as an expert professor. Now, inside Country Z's most heavily fortified safe house, I watched these scenes unfold through electronic eyes spread across the globe. Every day, countless people die in all sorts of ways. Among them are players with supernatural abilities like me, as well as genuine NPCs native to this world. My heart feels somewhat heavy. The general guarding the safe house interrupts my thoughts. Professor Winnie, we hope you can teach us the technology to dive 4,000 meters below the Antarctic surface. We may need to organize an underwater retreat. I hit my head and can't remember much, but I've compiled these findings into a book. You can use it for reference, though I'm not a true expert. The latest foreign research I've gathered is sufficient to cross-verify with Country Z's technology. The system issued a warning. Only 3 days remain until the first phase of the apocalypse crisis. The game discussion forum is still buzzing with activity, as if death has nothing to do with them. Lightning ability user Jason, what a pity. Only about 30 players have logged off. There are still so many people competing with me. Are you even worthy? Other ability users who considered themselves strong also joined the fight, until Jack spoke up. Light ability user Jack, the capable should take charge, and it's not a big deal for those with real skills to share the rewards. What's truly concerning is when some try to fish in troubled waters, like that person with the useless space storage ability. I really can't understand why he harbors such malice toward me. 3 days later, the second phase of the crisis begins, the zombie outbreak. After the disaster, the materials from the planetary impact entered the bodies that couldn't be burned in time, turning them into the first wave of zombies. The NPCs went berserk. How could mere mortal bodies withstand zombies that were nearly impervious to weapons? Those attacked by zombies would also turn into another zombie, upon entering the second phase. The system, thoughtfully, added a note behind each player's name indicating their country of origin. Among the remaining 63 players, they split into 3 factions, totaling around 50 people. There are still over a dozen players who, perhaps initially intending to hide, now find themselves in remote and weaker nations, isolated and struggling, but the path I've taken is different from all other players. I remain in the national safe house, continuing my scientific research. Using my spatial storage ability, I telepathically deliver research achievements from various institutions to Z countries' laboratories. After receiving the leader's approval, I return to my small house and leisurely enjoy a meal of lamb spine hotpot. The zombies in Country Z couldn't even make a ripple, most were blasted into dust by the beam electron cannons. Indeed, all fear stems from insufficient firepower. The system delivered another message: the third phase of the crisis had begun. After half a year, the zombies had learned to evolve. Zombies with high-dimensional intelligence have become extremely difficult to kill. However, on the flip side, each zombie killed yields an energy core. Researchers have discovered that these energy cores have a chance to grant ordinary people superpowers. Standing before the electronic eye, I stroke my chin, pondering how to help Country Z obtain more energy cores. The game discussion forum is currently in an uproar. Psychic controller Tiffany. According to investigations by our Alliance's ability users, we've learned that Winnie, the holder of the spatial storage ability, has defected to the NPC nation. I believe her actions constitute cheating and she deserves to be collectively eliminated from the game. Lightning ability user Jason: I agree, girl, just send the coordinates, I can crush her with a single finger. The other players also chimed in, as if being late to hurl insults would make them my accomplice. It seemed everyone was ashamed to be associated with me. Space storage ability user Winnie: so how did you find out? Did you join Y Country and discover some clues from there? Psychic controller Tiffany: none of your damn business. Those who betray their roots and ally with foreign nations dare to criticize me. Who said Tiffany was shameless? This person has quite the thick skin, but in the eyes of the other players, clearly I was the easy target. They attacked me more fiercely, even threatening to kill me for not following the rules. I typed out a line of text with a smile: want to be protected by the country like me. The game discussion area instantly fell silent, but my private messages were bombarded. How did you do it? Can you teach me, please? Tell me. I can't go on like this. I ignored the private message and typed a line in the public chat: to all players, collecting 100 zombie energy cores will qualify you for Z Country's protection. Please do your best. Just as I had anticipated from the beginning, in the face of apocalyptic disasters, individual strength is insignificant. After enduring this half-year-long trial, most of the surviving ability-wielding players have pushed their powers to the limit, yet, no one has found a way to break through the shackles and advance further. The zombies seem endless. After wiping out one wave, another emerges from nowhere. Even ability-wielding players remain within the bounds of humanity, still susceptible to exhaustion, distraction, and complete depletion of strength. Even players from the three major alliances suffered over 50% casualties due to resource shortages and constant battles. Left with no choice, they had to seek cooperation with various nations. However, with the emergence of zombie energy cores, NPCs in the game world also gain the chance to become superhumans, though most NPCs would explode and die upon absorbing the energy cores, unable to withstand the overwhelming power. But the NPC base was too large, and some NPCs still became ability users, with powers that were no less than those of the players. Even the last means of survival for the ability user players was being taken over by NPCs. They were, of course, extremely anxious. To my surprise, even at this moment, Tiffany still insisted on tripping me up. What surprised me even more was that Jack had regrets. In the private message conversation list, Jack's avatar kept flashing frequently: Winnie, I admit I failed to recognize true talent before. I misjudged you, and I apologize. I hope you can collaborate with me. Don't act on impulse. Surviving until the end of the apocalypse is what truly matters, isn't it? If you're refusing to join because of Tiffany, then I can kick her out of the Lightbearers Alliance. Men, this is the man who claims love is above all else. In reality, the only one who truly matters in his eyes is himself. The game panel shows that there are now only 35 ability-wielding players left, except for a small number of ability-wielding players who are truly skilled or not quite right in the head. Most players have joined the wave of killing zombies to collect energy cores. I relayed the information to the decision-makers of Country Z, giving them an early heads-up. I hope that with everyone's wisdom, we can truly overcome the crisis. After handling everything, I returned to my personal safe house once again. This place is actually located 1,000 meters underwater, surrounded by special metallic materials. Even those with supernatural abilities cannot penetrate the multiple layers of protection to detect my true location, while the arrogant players with supernatural abilities were chatting freely in the discussion area. I had already observed their powers. I certainly knew that the ability player with the tracking power was under Jack's command, but his ability only worked on the surface. As for me, I was hidden deep underwater. I had been pondering what means I could use to make numerous ability players serve me. After all, the zombies were becoming increasingly intelligent these days, and they no longer engaged in direct confrontations with firearms, but currently, the NPCs with special abilities are still in the adjustment phase, and the vast majority cannot yet fight independently. The zombies have adopted guerrilla tactics, which is truly a headache. At this point, the players with special abilities, who have been adjusting for half a year, become particularly crucial. I need them to act as vanguard officers, collecting energy cores for Country Z while also clearing out the guerrilla zombies. I never expected someone to offer a pillow just as I was dozing off. Tiffany's approach was exactly what I wanted. To repay this beautiful lady, I sent her a screenshot of Jack's words. The next day, Mr. Jason posted an announcement in the game community section. Thunderhome warmly welcomes the addition of our dear Tiffany. Oh, calling me baby already. I stared at the private message from a player belonging to the 3 major alliances, their avatar reappearing in the chat zone. So far, I've received energy cores from 7 players. According to the decision of Z Country's higher-ups, this task will end once we collect energy cores from 10 players. Players who wish to gain Z Country's protection but haven't gathered 100 energy cores yet, please keep working hard. The discussion area fell silent once again. To secure a chance for shelter, the next wave of ability-wielding players would become even more desperate in hunting zombies, and since there are only 3 spots available, harvesting other players would truly be the fastest method. Through the electronic eyes, the outside world had already turned into something resembling a battlefield of carnage. Of course, the more, the merrier. In fact, over 15 ability-wielding players have already collected enough energy cores, and I've transported them to the testing zone in Country Z using my spatial storage ability. But apart from me and the ability-wielding players who gathered the energy cores, no one else knows this news. After all, it's best not to flaunt one's wealth. Everything is subject to what I say. If I say a certain number of people have been collected, then that's the number collected. For players who have already handed in 100 energy cores, I told them the military needed to process and receive them uniformly. By leveraging information asymmetry, I quickly helped Country Z accumulate 2,300 energy cores, and with these cores, scientific research made progress. The admirable academicians of the Academy of Sciences, working tirelessly day and night, some even at the cost of their lives, finally developed a true antidote to suppress the zombies. The remaining scattered zombies eventually merged and evolved into the Zombie King. Will this antidote still work against the Zombie King? Increase the dosage, adjust the concentration, then it will definitely work. But who should deal with the Zombie Kings? According to the electronic eye scans, there are currently 7 Zombie Kings active on the surface, 2 of which are operating within our country. After enjoying the fruits of others' labor for over half a year, I knew it was finally my turn to step up. I can do it, let me handle it. Truth be told, I had no right to be present at such a high-level discussion, but because I had brought back an exceptionally large number of energy cores in one go, making an outstanding contribution, I was granted the rank of general and allowed to participate in this meeting. My figure appeared particularly frail among the many soldiers, and some even stood up to scold me for fooling around. Someone like you should be protected, leave this kind of thing to us. To completely eliminate the Zombie King, I publicly displayed my abilities for the first time. I had thoroughly considered it, since the NPCs had already accepted the emergence of superhumans. It was only natural for me to pretend to have awakened my energy core and become one as well. As I successfully received the mission, I boarded an unmanned aircraft heading toward one of the Zombie Kings. Contrary to the expected heart-pounding drama, the potion sprayed onto the Zombie King's body, emitting a sizzling sound. Before it could even fully rage, it had already dissolved into a pool of foul liquid, but the aircraft was still hit, rendering it unable to take off again. I contacted the command center via radio to request a second aircraft. While waiting, I spotted Tiffany and Jason. Jason looked like a puppet on strings, carrying Tiffany on his back as they wandered the streets. Turns out, this psychic-powered individual had taken control of her admirer, but obviously, their arrival was no coincidence. Tiffany's eyes lit up, about to say something. I didn't give her the slightest chance, immediately retreating into my space. Though I didn't know exactly how Tiffany's ability was triggered, a wise man keeps away from danger. Avoiding her couldn't be wrong. In the game's private message interface, Tiffany sent a message: "Winnie, don't hide, I'm here to discuss cooperation with you. I planted a spy with Jack, and he told me that Jack plans to take all of us down at the end of the game. So why don't we join forces and use the power of the NPC kingdom to kill him first?" I rolled my eyes without any regard for my image. Does she really think I'm that stupid? After all my efforts to establish myself in Country Z, was it just to help this little green tea bitch who once hurt me? Fortunately, this delicate rich girl had no patience at all. After receiving my reply of a single, "fuck off," she was carried away by Jason again. Returning to my safe house, I shared my experience of dealing with the Zombie King with the leader. The other 6 zombies were quickly eliminated as well. The long-awaited system prompt appeared again. Zombie Crisis resolved ahead of schedule. Wasteland Phase 4 unlocked. Apart from this, the system's somewhat cheeky voice echoed in my mind. Originally, a zombie emperor would have been generated in the end, but since you eliminated the Zombie King early, the final zombie boss never appeared. As the player who contributed the most in this stage, you've earned an opportunity to upgrade your special ability. As for how to use the upgraded ability, please explore it on your own. Once in the beginner's village, and now again, counting up, my ability has already upgraded twice. Last time, it was the power of telekinesis, so what could it be this time? Until this moment, the remaining 27 players finally realized that compared to the scorching highs of 60 degrees and the freezing lows of 50 degrees, the zombie hordes were actually not that unbearable. Various resources were being rapidly depleted, and reserves were quickly running out. Not a single player with special abilities had sufficient resource reserves. Even the 15 players with special abilities accepted by Country Z could only scrape by at the bottom. Every day, they receive meager food rations from the government and live in collective dormitories. In truth, this treatment is already quite good, as many NPCs can't even enter the collective dormitories and are forced to endure each day at home as best they can. Every day, people freeze to death. Others die from heatstroke, and some succumb to severe illnesses due to starvation, but the players, who inwardly consider themselves superior to NPCs, grow increasingly arrogant. He grew increasingly dissatisfied with the treatment he received in Country Z. As a last resort, I, acting as the bridge between both parties, had no choice but to personally step in to mediate. The superhuman Frank, with his immense strength, took the opportunity to ambush me. Just as his punch was about to crush my skull, he was headshot by a superhuman NPC sniper positioned high above. The gun was specially modified to fire silver bullets. Even rock-type or steel defense superhumans would be injured if hit, let alone him. Frank only had time to leave one last word: "Tiffany, I knew it." Among this group, there's a spy planted by Tiffany. If she could infiltrate Jack's alliance, then naturally, she could plant someone by my side too, but she'll be disappointed. Everything I've experienced in the real world has taught me that there's no one truly trustworthy in this world. No matter what, always keep a trump card in reserve for unexpected needs. After dealing with the ringleader of the troublemakers, the other players became much more subdued. I looked up at the sky, where the moon was strikingly bright, even rounder and more luminous than during the Mid-Autumn Festival in the real world. "Grandpa, you'll wait for me until the day I return, won't you?" Thinking of my grandfather still in the hospital and the home that had been taken over by my stepmother, my nose tingled with sadness. "Professor Winnie, are you okay?" A somewhat youthful voice caught my attention. I looked up to see a young NPC soldier, specially assigned by the leader to ensure my safety. "I'm fine, let's head back." Boarding the helicopter back to the safe house, I couldn't help but wish for the apocalypse to end sooner. With Jason being mentally controlled by Tiffany's psychic abilities, his faction completely collapsed, and most of the remaining players were absorbed by Jack. Now, there are only 2 major factions among the players. One is Jack's Alliance of the Light, and the other consists of the 14 players accepted by Country Z, although numerically, one has 10 members while the other has 14, but in terms of actual ability, the players from the Z family were not just slightly inferior, they were leagues behind. Now, only the strongest nations survive on the planet, while the rest have been completely annexed. As NPC superhumans became increasingly integrated with their own abilities, it seemed the players had completely lost any grounds for arrogance. For the first time, I took the initiative to contact Tiffany. "Want to cooperate?" Tiffany sent a disdainful emoji, followed by her location: "White House, Country A. Why should I work with you? You should know how powerful Country A is." I've already taken control of their president. With that old man in hand, I have more than enough resources to survive this crisis. Oh right, Jason will also be by my side at all times, so I'm not afraid of any assassination attempts either." Seeing her rejection, I smiled and sent a video call invitation. Tiffany answered quickly. Just as I expected, she was indeed putting on a tough front while being weak inside. The reasoning is simple: if she truly disdained working with me as she claimed, why would she say so much? In the frame, I smiled at Tiffany, who was bundled up tightly. "Long time no see." Tiffany had lost her usual radiance, her face pale from the cold. "What exactly do you want to say?" I continued smiling. "I want to collaborate with you. You know Jack is currently in talks with Country X. If he successfully negotiates a deal with them, how do you think he'll handle you, the woman who deceived him? Let me give you a piece of advice. In this world, Country X and Country A are sworn enemies, always looking for a chance to destroy each other. Moreover, Country Y and Country Z are both closer to Country X, so relying solely on Country A, your chances of winning don't seem very high." Tiffany lowered her head in thought for a moment. When she looked up again, a sharp glint flashed in her eyes. "Then I'll stop the collaboration between Country X and Jack. Once I accomplish my grand plan, I'll take 2/3 of the prize money. After all, no one else has control-type abilities besides me." I nodded. "That's only natural." After ending the video call, through the electronic eyes scattered across the globe, I saw Tiffany bundle herself up like a bear. Jason tirelessly carried her on his back, leaving the White Palace and boarding a solar-powered off-road vehicle. Nowadays, all kinds of resources are becoming increasingly scarce, and there is little energy left in the world when it's not necessary to use airplanes. Solar-powered off-road vehicles are naturally the first choice. The vehicle sped up faster and faster, heading straight for Country X, facing the scattered bones on the ground. Tiffany showed not the slightest hint of emotion, instead humming a cheerful tune. Well, why should she care about the lives of others? As long as she could prevent Jack from making contact with Country X, the superpowered players he led would soon be eliminated by natural weather conditions due to their inability to obtain energy. As for that ragtag group of players from Country Z, with Jason's abilities, taking them out one punch at a time wouldn't be a problem. As for this useless me, in Tiffany's eyes, I must be someone she could crush with just a finger. As long as she finally manipulates Jason into committing suicide, the ultimate winner of the game will belong to her alone, and the prize money will be hers exclusively. But will everything really unfold as Tiffany envisions? Night fell, but the temperature suddenly soared to 60 degrees. The heat made her sleep restlessly, but the solar energy stored by the car during the day was enough to briefly turn on the air conditioning and warm her body. Jason covered Tiffany with almost all the cotton items they had. A glint of cunning flashed in his eyes, but the next moment, his expression returned to its usual dullness. "So it's true," I muttered to myself, marveling at the power of Z Country's electronic surveillance while quietly sighing in admiration. A sudden break jolted Tiffany awake from her sleep. "Jason, how are you driving?" Without a word, Tiffany launched into a furious scolding at Jason, treating him as if he were a servant at her beck and call. But Jason had already thrown several punches, only to be overpowered and killed by the group of superhumans Jack had brought along. Tiffany sat alone in the car, dumbfounded, her eyes fixed on Jack's slightly sneering face. "Long time no see, Tiffany." Behind Jack, 3 other ability-wielding players were glaring at her with predatory eyes. Tiffany trembled uncontrollably, yet she forced herself to meet Jack's gaze. Long time no see. "Bro? Ha, I don't deserve to be called bro by you." Jack's tone grew increasingly sinister as he extended his unnaturally pale hand to lift Tiffany's chin. "I heard you wanted to leave me no way out." "No, nothing. So what are you doing now?" Jack raised an eyebrow with a smirk, then grabbed Tiffany's neck and twisted it hard. This campus bell level, green tea, was officially out of the game. After upgrading my ability for the first time in the beginner's village, I realized that abilities could be enhanced through player exploration. However, the methods for upgrading abilities vary among players. By observing the actual combat of NPC ability users in Country Z, I concluded, high-level ability users naturally suppress those of lower levels. For example, water can extinguish fire, but high-level fire ability users would not fear low-level water ability users. After obtaining the mind control ability, Tiffany did not utilize it properly, instead thinking of using this ability to control men. But how could she know that her low-level ability would actually fail? Jason abandoning Tiffany to escape alone is sufficient proof of this. I used my jealousy of Tiffany as an excuse to deliberately inform Jack of her whereabouts. Whether Tiffany was killed or Jack was harmed, it would only benefit me without any drawbacks. Sure enough, Jack, that vindictive man, came. The long-awaited system notification appeared again. Dear veteran rookie players who have endured 2 years, the system is broadcasting a piece of good news. The apocalypse will end in just 6 months. Here's a bonus piece of information. For every game player you kill, the apocalypse will end 10 days earlier. A private message notification popped up on the game panel. It was from Jack. You heard it all. I was going to let you off, but now I can't. I can't wait to return to the real world and enjoy endless wealth, so you have to die. Those blind fools who didn't choose me have to die, and those who betrayed me must die even more. I know you have the protection of Country Z, but do you think they would choose you over ending the apocalypse early? I sent a puzzled emoji in response, replying with 2 words, guess. The mockery in my tone was unmistakable. Country Z did not disappoint me, despite the hardships of the current world. They still chose to protect me, as well as those 14 players, who were also not abandoned. However, several other powerful nations aimed their nuclear weapons at Country Z, preparing for nuclear negotiations. Country Z wasn't afraid at all. What's the big deal about nuclear bombs? Who doesn't have them? In the end, the NPC nations still opted to resolve the conflict using superpowered individuals. Jack, to prove his own strength, joined his 3 remaining subordinates in fighting for another nation. When Jack descended onto the arena in a tailcoat, fluttering his wings like the child of light, the superhuman NPC sent by Country Z extended a finger and waved his hand dismissively. You alone aren't worthy. You should all come at me together. Through this long period of observation, I've come to realize that while Jack appears extremely arrogant on the surface, he's actually a cunning and deceitful person at heart. Now, hearing about such a good opportunity, how could he possibly refuse? Led by Jack, the 4 superpower users surrounded the superpower NPC in the center of the arena. At that very moment, an unexpected situation suddenly arose. A protective shield quickly rose around the arena, enclosing the 5 inside, preventing them from escaping. Jack's mouth opened and closed, but no sound came out. A vacuum. The environment inside the shield was a vacuum. No matter how powerful an ability user is, they are still human and still need to breathe. Under the pressure, all 5 of them died in less than 5 minutes. The energy shield was removed, and I walked up to the NPC, bowing deeply. Thank you. This NPC was a warrior worthy of respect. He had failed to absorb the energy core back then, and though he became an ability user, his lifespan was less than a year. After finalizing the plan with various countries, he volunteered to act as bait, solely to eliminate Jack and his group in one fell swoop. The energy shield was newly developed by Country Z, and the air inside was instantly removed using my spatial storage ability. After my ability underwent 2 upgrades, I realized my powers were no longer limited to just this planet. Initially, I attempted to collect fragments from asteroids, but it ended in failure. When my ability leveled up again, I tried once more and actually succeeded. I approached the leader of Country Z to inquire and learned that there are energy mines in the Pluto star system in outer space, but current technology limitations prevent their extraction. I attempted to obtain that energy mine, and to my surprise, I succeeded. With less than half a year left until the end of the apocalypse, having sufficient energy support makes this hardly a significant issue. Other countries also had no desire to make an enemy of Nation Z and instead wished to possess this resource mine. Thus, Jack was betrayed by all parties involved. I dutifully worked as a porter for nearly half a year before finally hearing the system notification again. The post-apocalyptic survival game has ended. Congratulations to the 15 victorious players this time. $1 billion in rewards has been delivered. I noticed the newly appeared black gold card in my hand and quickly checked the balance, $999990000. As for the remaining $10,000, it was claimed by the other 14 freeriding players. Once again, my gamble paid off. The prize money was indeed divided based on ability and contribution. Back in the real world, the icon inside the phone had already disappeared. I checked my balance again. Still the same. I hurried toward the hospital. Grandpa, I won the bet. Wait for me. That's all the story. What do you think of this story? Share with me in the comments section. What would you do if you were in this situation? Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.